Welcome back, all our 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ.
I'm Lane.
And here we are to record our final of our three-part series. We talked about our tournament, playing some of the new missions. We talked about the new secondaries and how we feel they affect the game and our feelings on them. And now it's time for the coup de grace. I actually said that right this time.
The coup de grace.
Coup de grace. The balanced data slates. And our impact and feeling on them. Now, I already composed a video of my armies and everything, so if you guys want to take a look at that, check that out. That is on the channel of the lists and the armies I play and how I feel like some of those things are going to affect the game. You hear me cry about how Canoptic Tomb Sentinels are no longer part of the game. Super sad face.
Whoa.
Tear.
Whoa, went to DJ.
That was actually one out of all the Zenos units. That was actually one that Lane actually felt bad for me for.
I understand they're going to drop things. Like at the start of 10th edition, they dropped most of the Forge World Space Marine stuff. I lost like 1,500 to 2,000 points worth of models that I was able to use. It just seems really weird that they just do it with a points update in the middle of the edition. Not even with
Ghosted,
the Codex release.
just ghosted.
Just, yeah, you never know when it's going to happen.
Yep. And what really is a bummer is like stuff like the Canoptic Archaeites. Those things could be used as wraiths. Some of the stuff could be used as other things in 40K. The Sentinel, there's nothing I can use that for at all.
Zach and I have told you, you just have to cut them in half.
I have
and
not
then they're two spiders.
For how long it took me to build those things, I am not cutting them in half. So we're going to talk about the core rules. All right, core rules, the data slate changes and everything. But mostly this is just going to be for Lane's armies.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Deathwatch, Custodes, Votan, oh, I just forgot Death Guard.
Yeah. So, I mean, I might blip on some of my stuff, but again, my video I went over everything. So if you want to hear my thoughts on Necrons, Grey Knights, Admech, big one on Admech, and Orcs, take a look at my video. But for this one, we're going to be looking at all the others. So first things first, we're not going to spend a lot of time. I spent a lot of time talking about some of the other stuff, core rules and stuff like that. But I just am curious in your opinion on some of these. So the big thing is that initially you had characters that could make stratagems cost 0 CP, and then they could also let you use some additional time. Then Games Workshop said, no, you know what? Only battle tactic strats are going to be costing 0.
Probably one of the weirdest knee-jerk changes because they obviously didn't intend for that to be a thing at the start of the edition. And as Codex released, they were just like what was a battle tactic and not was ridiculous. And now this is a weird change kind of too, but I like it. I like the change. I like that it's there. My feel on it. All in all, for the the two of these changes for modifying CP costs and stratagems that can be used more than once. Short version of it is you are no longer allowed to duplicate a stratagem in any way, shape, or form unless the stratagem is directly called out in the ability. An example is the Hexmark Destroyer allows you to use Fire Overwatch stratagem even if it's been used before because it directly calls out that. So you can still do that. And anything that reduces a CP cost to 0 now instead simply reduces it by 1. This does allow you to still make that a CP 0 stratagem, but things that are cost CP2, you would then reduce it down to 1 instead of dropping it from 2 to 0. Short version on that. Lane, how do you feel about those changes? I think it's good because, again, the battle tactic thing was weird.
Yeah.
For example, Deathwatch, other than Armor of Contempt, had no battle tactic strats for any of their damage output strats, where other Space Marine detachments might have 2 or 3 battle tactic strats that really let them improve their damage output. So if it wasn't for the fact that I had to put Tome of Ectoclades on a captain, I would not have put captains in my Deathwatch army. So I'm glad for that, and I think it gives more play for the game. It lets us have more fun in general. It's going to change a lot of things because I think a lot of us have forgotten the strats that are not battle tech and be like, oh, now I can put a captain in this unit, and now I can do this for free. Even though you're not allowed to double up on them, I think it just allows us to do more fun stuff. So
yeah, it's going to be a good change. And like you said, it's definitely going to be something we need to go reevaluate some of the armies and some of the abilities and see what we can do with those now and possible characters that we need to slap in there. One thing that's funny is still the only one in the game out of all like the Marine type factions, the Grey Knight Grandmaster is still the one that you can reduce the command point cost, but only once per battle.
Good news, it didn't change.
So that didn't change at all. It's still like we're all waiting for it. Like I remember at the beginning of the edition, there was a bunch of them that said, "Oh, that was a mistake," or "You can do it multiple times," blah blah, and it still has not changed. So apparently, that wasn't a mistake, and just weird that that's the penalty. The other two big.
Well, the other part of that is the increasing the cost of a strat by 1 CP. They totally changed that. So now they have the Lord of Deceit aura. So if you have a model that increases the cost of a stratagem by 1 CP, like the Callous Assassin, there are a bunch of other ones, Vect, the Watchmaster and Deathwatch. They're now an aura that always increases the cost of a CP strat that is used within 12 inches of that model, which is kind of a big deal. The Callous Assassin, I think, is the loser on this, just because she absolutely does not want to be within 12 inches of the opponent. She's a lone-off character. You usually keep her far away so she can survive and, score your primaries and secondaries, but she does not want to be within 12 to trigger this thing. But there are other kind of frontline characters that would do this, like with the Drukhari, they have, and I think it's an enhancement or one of the characters that does this, and it's on something you're going to attach to a unit of Incubi and run them up the table. So Zach and I played a game. I was trying out Custodes, and he was trying his Drukhari, his Dark Eldar, and as we were playing, we are kind of figuring this out. He charges the this unit in there, and they've got one model that has this the ability to increase the cost of a strat by 1 CP, and he kind of positioned it carefully. So there were 3 different engagements around there. I had 2 CP, so I could interrupt, which would have been very valuable in this case, but I couldn't do it because the way he placed the model, it would cost me 3 CP in any of the engagements I used to it. So it definitely has the potential to be very powerful, especially for things like shutting down Overwatch. So this unit goes into charge a unit. Well, now your own Overwatch costs 2 CP.
Armor Contempt, Void Armor, and things like that as well.
It's charging. If someone's trying to charge you and they want to CP reroll that charge, well, now it costs 2 CP. I think we're going to find throughout the game there are going to be a lot of times when this is huge for armies that have access to it, but they are going to have to put those units in there close to make it work. So if you can obviously snipe them out, precision them out of the unit, that's going to be huge.
Another one that I know that you love is moving on to the stratagems that prevent units from being targeted. Basically, it's often referred to as the... What's that?
I said, thank God.
This is the often referred to as the lone op strat, because when you used it on a unit, they would make the unit could not be targeted unless you're within 12 inches, the same as the lone op rule. Now, for the stratagem purpose, lone op still functions as 12 inches, but for the stratagem, it is now 18.
Yeah.
I like it because I think it just courtesies the spirit of the game and the spirit of the rule, meaning that early in the game, you don't lose key components to your army. You have something to protect them on that. But later in the game, it's not making silly plays. I think it's still powerful and in its own right, but it's not 12 inches, it's 18.
Yeah, we've had this discussion many times before about this because I hate this strat. But because it's just an easy button. It's like, boop, oh, you can't shoot me. It's not stealth. It's not armor contempt. It's just you absolutely cannot target me. And 12 inches a lot of times is very tight. And so armies that have access to this, a lot of times we're just every single turn, can't target. Very frustrating. So it's more situational now, which is the way it should be. And there are ways to work around it, being able to get closer to things. So I think it's a big quality of life improvement. It makes me feel a lot happier. It's just frustrating when you can't do the thing you want to do at all.
Last of the changes, which is just basically it is what it is. Any stratagem that puts a new unit, not replacing models, a brand new unit on the battlefield, now can only be used once per game.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
I think Imperial Guard were probably using this a lot of times. Astro Militarum were probably using this.
Orcs might have had something.
Yeah. I think Astro Militarum, they would use it, like, for whatever reason, they would use it a lot, like very frequently compared to some other armies. So whatever, it's fine. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, just being able to bring back units over and over and over again and adding like 300 or 400 points to your army does not feels good for your opponent.
So moving into the factions, the first one we're going to talk about is the Custodes, because again we're talking about your armies and the armies that you play. So Custodes, this is one that obviously I could not very well comment on, but this is for the Shield Host Detachment.
So for the shield host detachment, there's a couple bullet points changed in here. So what is that? Martial mastery detachment rule. What is that for? That's just one of the.
So, well, this is the shield host detachment is the one that we were lovingly referred to as the WA for custodes, because once per game at the start of a battle round, you could say for this battle round, all the custodes kata abilities that usually proc on 6s to hit either lethal or sustained would now proc on 5s to hit either lethal or sustained, and they would get extra AP, 1 extra AP on all their close combat weapons. So now, that was kind of tricky, especially because you have to do it at the start of the battle round. If your opponent went first, they would have, and you called it, well, then they would have the ability to kind of play against that and hold back a little bit so they don't get in combat with you. But now, at the start of every battle round, you can pick one of those two things. So either all your katas proc on 5s, which is really good, or you get the extra AP, which are both good options, and it's throughout the whole game. So Custodes were really suffering. I think this is a huge quality of life improvement for them. It's much more fun to play rather than just trying to figure out that one turn when you can do it. Now you can just pick it anytime. So it makes it much more fun to play.
So every battle round you can do that, basically?
Yeah, it's not capped to once per game for either of those things. So every round I either say all the katas proc on 5-ups, or all the close combat weapons just get an extra pip of AP.
That's a lot. That's heavy. Heavy.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
That is definitely going to be a big deal. Yeah, I when I first read over it, I'm like, okay, I don't know what this means, because I don't know what these bullet points are, because all it says in there is you get the bullet points. Oh, okay. Well, what's the bullet point? And not being a custody player, I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
So.
And you'll be glad. So there are a few point drops for custodes.
I don't want to talk about that, but go ahead.
The Forge World Dreadnoughts all went down a couple points. I haven't really looked at them because they're still not really strong. But the big one, and it's a big one, the Venatari, the little jump pack, the wing guys with wings, went down 35 points for 3. So a 3-man squad was 200 points. And that's pretty expensive for 3 infantry guys with jump packs. But they were pretty strong. And sometimes I play around with using them. But now they went from 200 to 165, which is a huge points cut. And they kept all their abilities. They can fall back and shoot and charge. But the other big abilities, they rapid ingress for free. And they can do it multiple times, even though it's been done. So because all those things are specifically stated, they specifically state the strat, they can still do that. So they can still rapid ingress 3 units of Venatari on the same turn for 0 CP. And DJ just love them. they slap really hard when they have the spears. They are strength 7, AP 2 damage with 5 attacks apiece, but they get lance. So that just means anything that's less than toughness 7, they're wounding on 2s, just across the board. And now with the shield host attachment, when you're procking off your katas on 5-ups, and you can choose to do that every turn, they just increase the value of them so much. So expect to see those on the table.
So now let's move into the Death Guard. There's a couple things with Dark Angels and stuff like that. I know that that's something that we might see here on the channel soon, but without as much experience, I know you can't really probably comment much on them. Do you have any thoughts on the Dark Angel stuff, or we need more time before you can really comment on any of the Dark Angel changes?
Oh, I don't know anything about Dark Angels.
I figured as much.
Yeah.
All right, so over to Death Guard. So the first bold thing is they do keep the they kept the contagion, the new contagion things in here. And the only thing that changes down here, there's this little bullet point at the bottom that says, so enemy units within contagion range of it will have their characteristic modified. Does that mean anything to you?
No, that just I think that's probably a change that was made before.
Okay. And then down here we have the explosive Malleus. Once per battle round, you can target 1 unit from your army with this ability with the grenade stratagem for 0 CP.
Yeah, so they used to be, they've changed this multiple times. It used to be that every biologist putrefier could throw a grenade for free, and they could do it if someone else had already done it. So technically, you could have 4 grenades thrown in a single turn. You could spend 1 CP for 1 unit, and then 3 biologist putrefiers, their units could do it for free. And then they cut it back to, you can do it once for free per model per game, but you can only do 1 of them per battle round. So you could throw 2 grenades. And now they just made it, you can only do it once. Each unit can do it once.
once per battle round, you can target one unit from your army with this ability with the grenade stratagem. Yeah. So you can do a grenade strat and then a free one because it's 1 CP. You can reduce it down to 0. So
you can't duplicate anymore. So you just get free grenades on any units that have putrefires.
Yeah, you can't. It's not additional. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's it. That's right. They took.
Although they took away the cap that it was once per battle that you can do it for the unit. So so they can do it multiple turns now, but it's only one unit from your army, and you can't double stack grenades.
So it is
free grenades are still good. I mean, grenades are still good. I use them all the time.
Now, one thing I did kind of scan by real quick that I want to talk about real fast just because of it. Imperial Knights. Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights. So
is this the Kool-Aid Man addendum?
Or climbing over walls or whatever it may be, yes. So Chaos Knights and the Chaos Knights and the Imperial Knights. We've always had the ability to, what was it? They always have been stuck by terrain, which was a difficult thing to deal with. Now, you don't have to do that anymore.
Now they fit through little doors.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know. The downside is really weird. You roll a d6 on a 1-year battle shock. That's kind of weird. I feel like they should have some kind of movement penalty, or you can't charge after you do that or something, but whatever. Imperial Knights aren't super strong right now, so it's probably good for them. And it's only the super heavies, so it's not the little ones. Right. So the armatures or the war dogs cannot do it. It's just the big boys.
Well, not to cut you off, since we are running out of power here, I want to try and get through this. Deathwatch, nothing changed.
Nothing
in
there.
The
there were just some point changes, but things
what happened to Votan?
Nothing.
Nothing happened to Votan at all.
Yeah, no. Just the only thing is we got points for the Jaegers, the infiltrating ones, which is pretty good. 80 points for a 10-man squad.
So I did say that I was going to talk a little bit about the Tyranids, but I'm going to do this in a separate video because I have someone else. I know, teaser for the future. I want to look into the Tyranids a little bit more. A lot of this stuff is still, it's tough to translate over. I know that one of the big changes is going to be, we're going to be seeing a lot of Zoanthrope here soon. A lot of very big psychic armies are going to be happening. And so this is going to be that's going to be big. Seeing a lot of them because of the fact that now the Neuro Tyrant can join Zoanthrope. And I don't know all of what that means, but I know I've heard a lot of excitement about that. That's going to be a big part of it too. Not to mention the fact that the Crusher Stampede detachment, which was not looking too good, now you are adding to the objective control value. So now you're going to be able to control objectives better, which was one thing in my Tyranid matchup from this weekend. I was very disappointed with them and how easily I could take objectives away because they're very low value for what they are. And just everything else. I think they also have the ability to, they can also climb. Their Titanic units can also climb over walls too. Which, I mean, for Tyranids, I can give them that one. That one I can understand. But Imperial Knights, man, those things don't climb. Those things don't climb.
They just smash on through.
All right, doing this real quick. Lane and I were recording a lot that evening, and the new microphones did well. They made it through. My camera, on the other hand, not so much. So, unfortunately, I did promise Tyranids, and I'm going to give Tyranids. So, apologize for this being so abrupt and the location and the camera and stuff. Like I said, still working on this, but we're going to talk about Tyranids real quick. So, I don't have a lot I can comment on Tyranids because I don't play them, but I'm thinking about dusting them off and giving some tries here in a little bit. So I did some research, and here are my thoughts going into it with Tyranids real fast. First of all, there's Synapsis rule. Each time a unit takes a battle shock, 3d6 instead of 2d6, and the fact that it increases the strength by 1. That strength characteristic by 1 is going to be huge. One thing that Tyranids do lack is that ability to hit those toughness 10 things. So things like Crusher Stampede that have that's their weapons are When they get in combat, they're expecting that their big boys are going to hit like big boys. But on top of that, things like Ravagers and Gene Stealers and things like that, that strength boost is going to be very good for them to be able to damage. From what I've heard and what I've talked to with some people, I've talked to a couple people, did a lot of research, so I could talk about this a bit, is that Tyranids didn't play like Tyranids. You could play them, and that Endless Swarm stratagem was extremely strong to be able to play them, to score points, to be able to win games. Now you don't get that, but now the Tyranids are looking more like a killing machine with a lot of this stuff. Shadows of the Warp, subtracting 1 from the test when you do the battle shock trigger. Each time an enemy unit takes a battle shock, it's within 6 inches of a Synapse unit, subtract 1. Now, while that may not seem that big, their volume of Synapsis units that now the Tyranids have to offer are going to make that tremendously obnoxious. I can tell you with the Psychomancer, that is very, very annoying and is going to be very strong. The Crusher Stampede Detachment. Now, being able to, what's this? We got, so this is their detachment roll. Each time a Tyranid monster model hits in your army, makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll, and then if it's below its starting strength, and add 1 to the wound roll as well if it's below half strength. So the weaker your monsters get, the nastier they get. In addition, while Tyranid monsters from your unit, excluding battle shock units, is at its starting strength, add 2 to the objective control value. So I noticed when I played against Tyranids recently how low the OC value was on many of their monsters. I was surprised. That's going to be really nice. That's going to really help them a lot. Oh, let's see. Untrammeled Ferocity. So this is basically allowing the Titanic units. This is similar to the Imperial Knights and other Titanic units for Tyranids will be able to climb over walls and stuff like that. Craziness. Hive Tyrant Onslaught. So the Hive Tyrant now has a lethal hits ability. Now, prior to it, what I'm hearing is that, let's see, while friendly Tyranids units within 6 inches of this model, ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit have the assault and lethal ability. So there was a change with this, and I'm not 100% sure, but having lethal as an aura is amazing. And the Hive Tyrant, I believe this is the Walking Hive Tyrant, is going to see play where now Tyranids have the ability to put down a nasty, nasty firing line. Very nasty firing line. Oh, now, this is going to be the bigger change. How many things have Synapsis and what they're able to join. So the Neurolictor now has Synapsis. Very cheap, infiltrating unit that can get Synapsis up the field. That's going to be nice. The Neurotyrant being able to join Zoanthrope is huge. As of right now, rules as written, Big Guns Never Tire state that if a monster unit wishes to shoot, etc., 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 the Neurotyrant is a monster while the Zoanthrope are infantry. Until this gets FAQ'd or changed to be a model monster, a model with the monster keyword and not a monster unit, this means that if you tag the Zoanthrope, they can still shoot out at other things. I believe their guns blast, so it'd have to be at other things, but that's going to be big. Welcome back, Zoanthropes. The Bruised Lord and the Parasite of Mortex have Shadow in the Warp. Not exactly sure how much that affects. It gives a faction Shadow in the Warp. Okay, so each time an enemy unit takes such a battle shock test, if it's within 6, so this just gives them the Shadow of the Warp rule, I guess. Add the following to both data sheets. Keyword Synapsis. So then they both have Synapsis. That's going to be the big part. The Broodlord and the Parasite having Synapsis. Parasite hasn't seen much play. Flyer. I haven't seen it do around very much. But the Broodlord, there was I'm guessing, an enhancement that you could put. Now the Broodlord, you just save points because Synapsis. Moloch, Ravagers, and Trigon gain the Vanguard Invader keyword. So this is one that I've heard a couple people very excited about. Because now the Vanguard detachment, which was very linear and wasn't doing too well because of the power behind the units that it was trying to use, now you have 3 more units, and specifically Raveners, being able to do things like gaining re-rolls and advance, fallback, and charge. those are going to be heavy hitters. Those are going to really make things very, very nice. The Exocrine going to strength 9 on its gun profile. Cool, but I think it should have been at strength 10. Being one of the main firing units of the Tyranid army, that should be at strength 10. Just so it can at least get 4s to wound versus those toughness 10 units. But the Tyran effects, this is an impressive profile. So you got 2 shots with hitting on 3s. This is a heavy weapon, so if the Tyran effect sits still, he can hit on 2s. Strength 18. That means those base vehicles at 9, you're still wounding on 2s. AP 4. D6 plus 6 damage per hit. Capability of 24 damage at max. That's enough to one-shot a Titan. This is a strong gun. Obviously, there's going to be armor saves, there's feel no pains, you're going to miss or fail to wound, but that's a heavy hitter. Tyranids have damage output again, and this is going to be really nice to see. I am looking to potentially, I have Tyranids, I just would need to get the codex and start messing with some of this stuff, and I have been considering getting them all cleaned up and dusted off because I do have some Tyranids. Not a lot of the new stuff, but definitely a bunch of the old. So definitely, it's definitely gonna be something I'm putting into consideration here very, very soon. You guys can let me know if you want to see more Tyranids. Then I'll put the effort into it right now. Biggest thing is with the babies on the way and the stuff I'm working on, I have not had the extra revenue to go buy the Tyranid Codex. Literally, that's all it comes down to, is I just need to put a couple bucks aside and get the Tyranid Codex. That's where we're at right now. But aside from that, the only other army faction that we have not talked about is Space Marines. And since we got cut off, Lane said Monday, where he's bringing the Iron Hands. So we'll talk about that during Lane's video on some of the changes with Iron Hands. And yeah, we'll see all that right here on Monday. All right, guys, that's about it. Sorry for running out of power, and hopefully we'll get some Tyranid. Hopefully you guys want to see a Tyranids, in which case I'll try and get that codex. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.